The Ombud for short and long-term insurers has released data on the most complained about insurers in 2023. And according to the report, over 12,000 complaints were filed. A little over 10,000 of those have been closed at the time of the release of the report. Let's talk about it now with the adjudication in the life insurance division. Nceba Sihlali. Good afternoon, good morning to you, and thank you so much for your time. This report is quite concerning. You think about the number of complaints that were received. Of course, it's great that there is recourse in terms of the Ombud, and a lot of these complaints can be resolved. Just maybe as an opening, let's start out with the anatomy of those complaints. What are people mostly complaining about?
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting us. The things that complainants complain about is about declined claims on the basis that terms and conditions have not been met, poor service, lapsing of policies, non-disclosure, benefit values where people are not satisfied with the maturity values or surrender values, and mis-selling. Those are the kinds of complaints that we receive in our office.
Before we go into some of the details around understanding it further, what's your observation? Is it because people aren't it is not explained to people really well what they're in for when they sign up for a particular insurance policy? And you think about the lapsing of some claims, what are some of the issues there? Is it because people are going through financial difficulties? Are these insurers able to make some provisions for them so that, even in the interim, if they can't pay for 2 or 3 months, maybe to kind of pause that particular cover or policy, and then it comes back online when they are in a financially better position? I'm really fascinated by what some of the detail on these two particular issues might be.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, of course, we do find out that policyholders, sometimes they do not get the necessary information in order to make an informed decision at the application stage. However, we are not able to investigate those kind of complaints because they fall within the phase Ombud. But the provisions of the policy will state explicitly. They will state that if you have not paid your premium within a period of maybe 31 days, your policy will lapse. So if there is no, there is a grace period, of course. If you fail to pay the policy will not lapse immediately. But you can always pay at a later stage. However, when people are in financial distress, they don't pay premiums. And I think what they need to do is to try and negotiate with the insurers and see whether there can be a premium pause. So, yeah, basically, we do find out that, sometimes the provisions of the policy have not been explained properly at the application stage.
Nceba, we must certainly talk a little bit about outreach, and I'm not sure if the Ombud's office does outreach to communities and consumers to be able to share some of this information, like what you're providing to us now, about what they should be aware of when they deal with some of their policies and their coverage and so on. So we've got two areas now that are contained in this and represented in this report that you've released. This is the Ombud for long-term insurance and the Ombud for short-term insurance. For me, what's quite interesting is just the staggering amount of money we're talking about that were it not for your intervention, consumers would not have seen come back into their bank accounts. OLTI and OSTI, which I've just explained what that is, jointly placing over 386 million rand back in the hands of complainants. Are you concerned that it's such a huge amount of money that were it not for your intervention, consumers wouldn't have access to?
Yeah, of course. Of course, if consumers had not come to our office so that we can investigate those complaints, they would have lost that money. And consumers, they must understand that we provide a free service to complainants. And, our process is informal, we are easily accessible, it's cost effective, and we also take equity and finance into consideration when we evaluate these complaints.
So when you look at the ombuds for long-term insurance, and again, the acronym is OLTI, from what we can gauge on the report, Old Mutual Life Assurance receiving the most complaints, roughly 16% of all complaints. And towards the end of that report, even though they had received the most complaints, only 24% were finalized in favor of the complainants. I think Hollard Life Liberty Group as well, sort of in the top numbers. I know that you're always loath to mention, organizations and companies by name, but the reality is that these were, the policies and products that, consumers had been complaining about. And we've seen, of course, what's been happening on social media in terms of some people's individual stories. What do you take away from, from these companies emerging at the top of the, the kind of dissatisfaction list when it comes to those complaints laid?
Well, I think that is a very good question. But before I can answer that question, I think it is necessary to define our mandate for the benefit of all of us. As the Office of the NFO, our mandate is to resolve disputes against financial service providers relating to banking products and services, credit agreements, insurance complaints, long and short-term insurance policies, through mediation, conciliation, recommendation, or as a last resort by determination. So in order to achieve our mandate and resolve these disputes speedily, our process is informal, as I have stated, and it's free to complainants. Just coming back to your question, we cannot confirm or deny that, because they have so many complaints, that their claims process is poor. So, because some of these insurers, as we have just mentioned, Old Mutual, it's a very big in size with many clients. It follows that they will have more complaints than insurers with fewer clients. And furthermore, we do not have their claims data, which will indicate the number of claims that they have received, the number of claims that they have accepted. It will therefore be inappropriate to say that it has poor claims handling process based just on the number of complaints received against it.
Right.
And as far as the other one is concerned, because we find the double P, which is those complaints that we have found in favor of the complainants, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have a poor complaints handling process, because we have found against them in so many complaints, because the double P, it does not only concern the determination matters that we have made the determinations. It also includes those cases where insurers have just made an extra share payment, which is a settlement, in good faith. And some of these complaints are settled even before they go to adjudicators. So I don't think you can, just based on that, and say they have a poor complaints handling process.
So
thank you.
Can we talk about, all of these companies operate within the precepts of the financial services, regulations and governance in South Africa, and you have various bodies that are responsible for that. Do you send any recommendations to those oversight and governance authorities based on what you're finding to ensure that their processes are more hygienic, that they are more, that they are fair to consumers and, to people who might buy or purchase their products and services? What happens with this information?
Yes, we do report from time to time to the FSCA, which is the regulator. We also report to the Ombud Council. So we do provide information to those bodies so that if any steps that needs to be taken, they can take them from their side.
I want to end with something that I think viewers should be aware of. And we know we're all going through such difficult times in South Africa. Things are really tight. And as you pointed out at the beginning, some of these policy lapses are happening in a context where people might just be, you know, when you think about your budget, this is probably the first place that gets hacked if you're making a choice between food and clothes and school and things like that. I was interested in the mediation aspect. When people get into difficulties and they already have, you know, a contract with one or a few of these companies. Many people have different products with a range of different companies. Talk to us about how they should come to you and the role that you can play in getting those sort of premium, like a premium break or a payment break for a little while until they're able to afford again. What should consumers be aware of when it comes to that so that they don't lose the whole value of their policy, particularly if some of these policies are many years old?
Thank you very much. As I have stated, the process of lodging a complaint is very informal. There is an application form which is available on our website. They can also contact our call center and request, you know, the application form. They complete the application form and set out briefly what is their complaint. Once we receive those complaints, we will acknowledge receipt of a complaint and provide a case number so that whenever they call, they will just give us the reference number. Insofar as the issue of lapsing that you have just referred to, I think what policyholders need to do, they can, if they see that they cannot manage to pay their premiums, they can reach out to their insurers and find out whether they can at least decrease the amount of cover as well as the amount of premium. I think that can at least alleviate their plight in that manner.
All right. Nceba Sihlali, thank you very much for talking to us this morning. I think there's some valuable nuggets there for consumers as well. Nceba is the manager of the adjudication division in the life insurance division at the National Financial Ombuds Scheme.